for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
I'm Katy Steele.
I am Erik Prince.
Yeah, and we have Stella chewing on Katy's phone over here. This is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. So executive producer Stella is joining us. Executive producer Rascal is just kind of wandering around doing his own thing. Oh, go ahead.
Executive Director Chico is watching from the sideline here.
Oh, yep. Nice.
Yep. And now Stella's trying to get one of the twist ties here.
Yeah, the trouble begins.
Yep.
They always know when the show starts.
Yep. Coffee's going to be next.
Yep, that's on my lap.
Yep. All right. We've got a lot to talk about today. We even have a Hammer Time segment this week. We'll tell you who's the winner of that award this week in just a little bit. Before we get started, we have a couple of reminders for you that you can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can follow us on Tumblr, southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can follow us on YouTube by doing a search for Southpaws Radio. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker.com or at Stitcher.com. Do a search for us there. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts by doing a search for Southpaws. Once you found our logo, you found us. We send links to our weekly episodes to our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube pages. You can listen to us on Global Community Radio Channel 1 every Saturday night at 11 Eastern. And you can listen to us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI-FM in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, WOOL in Bellows Falls, Vermont, KEPJ in San Antonio, Texas, and a shout-out. Our episode last week was also downloaded by our friends at WRWK, Midlothian, Virginia. So make sure you support your local Pacifica radio station, help them out in any way you can, either by volunteering your time or by volunteering some cash. So they could always use the help. I want to start by picking up on what we talked about last week. We were discussing Rush Limbaugh, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners might have gotten a kick out of our open of last week's show with the Wicked Witch is Dead from The Wizard of Oz. Some stations may not have appreciated that. But after we recorded last week, a opinion piece came out at newrepublic.com. This is Alex Shepard. The headline reads, Rush Limbaugh made America worse. And this is the truth. And I'm going to say this because there have been some other people that have been in trouble. Locally in West Michigan, there's calls for the president of Middleville to resign because when Rush died, she posted an article. She shared a Wood TV article, and the caption that she posted was nothing but ha 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 ha. Which, considering that Rush made fun of gay people and played fanfare and music, reading the names of gay men who had died of AIDS, yeah, no, he deserves what he got.
Yeah, and
Rush, I'm saying.
And people have a right to have an opinion on it. I mean, that's our First Amendment right, to have an opinion.
Exactly.
I mean, even if it's an evil, sick opinion, I want to know what people's evil, sick opinions are. I want to know who I'm dealing with. You know, and maybe I agree with them, maybe I don't, but they should have a right to say who they are so that we know.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was a radio personality. I'll read this story. This is from Inside Radio. This is a insider publication regarding the broadcast television and radio industry. They're owned by Tegna, the parent company of WZZM here in Grand Rapids, so they own a bunch of TV stations too. Let me read this. This is dated February 19th. Woodward Communications has indefinitely suspended Len Nelson after the Rock WAPL Appleton, Oshkosh, Wisconsin morning man posted negative comments Wednesday on his personal Facebook page about Rush Limbaugh following his death after a year-long battle with advanced lung cancer. A posting on the station's website said in part, quote, his personal views are not reflective of the core values of WAPL nor of Woodward Radio Group. We are deeply committed to being good people. We appreciate our listeners, sponsors, and advertisers and want to assure each one of you that this matter is being addressed swiftly. End of quote. While the post has since been deleted, a screen grab appeared on the Facebook page of a listener who said that Nelson personally attacked him on social media and urged followers to call the station to let them know that enough is enough. Well, here's the thing. The screen grab, there wasn't really a whole lot on that screen grab that was controversial, at least in my eyes. Len Nelson, as far as I'm concerned, told the truth about Rush Limbaugh being hateful, being anti-woman, anti-gay,
right,
anti-everybody except rich Republicans.
That's the thing. We need to start calling this out when people act as if an opinion, an honest opinion, that sums up somebody's negative actions, negative attitude, negative behavior, is not a personal attack. It's truth. Mm-hmm. And right. If you feel attacked by that truth of who you are or what you did, you have to acknowledge that there's something wrong with who you are or what you did. Like we can't let people change and redirect the narrative to go, well, that wasn't. And for me personally, I was let go from my job a year ago now during coronavirus because I went and posted in a private forum that, I didn't feel comfortable risking people's lives until we knew we were safe. I wanted us to take steps to wash our hands. And the first thing, the response I got and the reason I was fired was because it was an unprofessional response. To say something negative in publicly, even if it was true, was unprofessional because it was negative in public. And that to me is just a huge...
And your post wasn't even public. It was in a private group,
right.
Correct?
It was private. It was public to the people at work. But yeah, that was it. It was only the people that we worked with that could see it. So at that point, it was like, you start to see how easy it is for these people to manipulate public opinion and justify evil and unempathetic actions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when Limbaugh went into the public arena, which was every morning for an hour, 2 hours, whatever.
A three hour show every day for 32 years.
3 hours. Yeah, you advocate the right for protected, objective analysis of what you say. I'm sorry, that's all there is to it. You're out there in most places denigrating people, attacking institutions, challenging people, insulting people. The door's wide open. There's no such thing as honoring somebody who has passed away. He has been in our public mind and affected our culture. This goes way beyond the adage of dancing on his grave.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Speaking of dancing, I want to read this New Republic article again. This is Alex Shepard. I'll read this in part here. 25 years ago, Rush Limbaugh graced the cover of Time magazine. Wearing a striped shirt, an expensive suit, and a look of total contempt, he held his trademark cigar between two stubby fingers. A thick plume of smoke obscured part of his face, styling him in brimstone. The issue's cover asked a simple, almost innocent question. Is Rush Limbaugh good for America? The answer to that question was as obvious 25 years ago as it is today. Limbaugh was not merely bad for the United States. He was bad in uniquely terrible ways, and uniquely terrible right up until the end. He is near the top of any list of malign actors in the post-Vietnam era. By the way, Rush did not serve Vietnam because he had a boil on his ass. That is the truth.
Yeah, and I was a boil on America's ass.
Yeah. And to be fair, it's probably good for Vietnam that he wasn't there.
Obituaries of Limbaugh, who died Wednesday at the age of 70 of lung cancer, have, much like the Time cover, danced around this fact in the same have the cake and eat it too fashion. Limbaugh's politics have been sanded down in these tellings, which label him as merely controversial or polarizing. The New York Times described him as relentlessly provocative, a particularly weaselly way of describing his approach to talk radio. The Wall Street Journal wrote that he, quote, rode a wave of national polarization, end of quote. Nearly every obituary notes that he was influential. These are the kinds of things that you could say about so many people in politics. Generic appellations that would leave someone unfamiliar with Limbaugh's oeuvre confused as to why this instant bellowing of eulogy is even necessary to memorialize a man who merely possessed these ordinary qualities. What earns Limbaugh this special peal of immortalization is the qualities that these obituary writers know full well, but have assiduously buffed into nothingness in their drafts. That Limbaugh's politics were forced in a crucible of hatred and cruelty, that his racism and extraordinary misogyny are the only standout contributions he made to the world. Limbaugh was undoubtedly influential, but he didn't ride a wave of national polarization. He was the source of its tidal pull, directing it with a bullhorn for decades. He first appeared on the airwaves shortly after the Fairness Doctrine was repealed, helping to introduce a new style of decidedly unfair media. His politics were vicious and deceitful, aimed at undercutting liberal institutions in service of policies that made people like Limbaugh wealthier, often at the expense of his listeners. He thrived on making people angrier and more alienated, on obscuring the truth and rewarding meanness at every turn. And it just goes on to spell out everything that he did. But we've seen the crescendo of this in Donald Trump, because that's just exactly what it is. It's crazy.
Yep.
We have Florida being asked by Governor DeSantis to lower the flag to half-mast in honor of the demagogue called Rush Limbaugh. Only one person has been able to stop that, and that's Secretary of Agriculture, a woman, I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
Said no, she won't do it.
I don't remember her name either, but yeah, that ain't happening down in Florida, thank goodness.
I think it was, I just looked it up, Voltaire's quote, who said, "To the living we owe respect, but to the dead we owe the truth."
Exactly, that was Voltaire, yep. And somebody else that deserves scorn more than praise is Erik Prince. And this is a topic I know that's near and dear to your heart, Katy, so let's bring this up here. This is Declan Walsh writing for the New York Times. This was originally dated February 19th, and it was updated on February 24th out of Nairobi, Kenya. Erik Prince, the former head of the security contractor Blackwater Worldwide and a prominent supporter of former President Donald Trump, violated a United Nations arms embargo on Libya by sending weapons to a militia commander who was attempting to overthrow the internationally backed government, according to UN investigators. A confidential UN report obtained by the New York Times and delivered by investigators to the Security Council on Thursday reveals how Mr. Prince deployed a force of foreign mercenaries armed with attack aircraft, gunboats, and cyber warfare capabilities to eastern Libya at the height of a major battle in 2019. As part of the operation, which the report said cost $80 million, the mercenaries also planned to form a hit squad that could track down and kill selected Libyan commanders. I want to stop there for a minute. The idea that somebody has $80 million sitting around that they can use to start meddling in other countries' affairs scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, it should. And $80 million is a tiny little slice of what they have.
Exactly. Prince, a former Navy SEAL and the brother of Betsy DeVos, Trump's education secretary, became a symbol of the excesses of private American military force when his Blackwater contractors killed 17 Iraqi civilians in 2007.
I got to stop you because that's a huge mistake. Mm-hmm. He became a symbol of the American private military force, but that's not who he is, and we need to clarify that. He is now leading foreign countries' private military forces. And when I say foreign countries, I don't necessarily mean one foreign country. I mean he has private mercenaries in every country across the globe. Mm-hmm. And it's not an American thing, and it's not even a foreign relation thing. It's an oligarchy thing. It's a technocracy thing.
It's a money thing.
Yeah, and it's a Belt Road Initiative thing that China is behind. And if we don't acknowledge that right now, it's going to be too late.
The next paragraph actually addresses some of this. In the past decade, he has relaunched himself as an executive who strikes deals, sometimes for minerals, other times involving military force in war-addled but resource-rich countries, mostly in Africa. And once again, we're looting.
And keep in mind, we're looting these other countries for their resources. And why? Because they have the precious minerals, the precious metals that we need to build electronic components for the Department of Defense. Now, maybe not our Department of Defense, friends. Chances are really good that he is actually stealing our minerals right now with these mining companies. And I'll tell you, a lot of the private military and the private utility, private energy, private contractors, mechanical contractors, general contractors, HVAC companies, all of them lead back to Erik Prince. He is using all of these resources, all of these developmental builds. You don't think they're going down and stealing everything they find in the ground? That's what he does. He uses construction and infrastructure projects to steal resources via mining. That's what's happening right now. They're collecting all of these precious metals or precious resources, whether it's water, diamonds, gold, oil, gas. I mean, all these things they're collecting, and they're giving them to other militaries, not ours.
Platinum, gold, silicon.
That's what the Republicans are propping up and defending right now is treason, okay? If you're concerned about politics and countries and governments, then you should be mad about treason. I really don't care much about borders. I care about humanity. This annihilates all of that. So,
Prince refused to cooperate with the UN inquiry. His lawyer did not respond to questions about the report. Last year, the lawyer, Matthew L. Schwartz, told the New York Times that Prince, quote, had nothing whatsoever, end of quote, to do with military operations in Libya.
He never does.
The accusation that Prince violated the UN's arms embargo on Libya exposes him to possible UN sanctions, including a travel ban and a freeze on his bank accounts and other assets, though such an outcome is uncertain. No, we know that the outcome is certain. It's not going to happen.
It's never going to happen because he has his own private planes, his own banks, his own resources. They can't take it from him. That's the sick part.
Can we back up just, a month ago in December when Trump gave a pardon to I think there were...
the four.
15. How many guys was it that massacred the people in Nazareth Square?
They massacred 17 people, but I think it was 4 of them that he gave the pardon to.
Yeah, I told Darren this story a long time ago. When the book came out, Blackwater, I was at the presentation in Holland.
Oh, wow.
And walked up and had a nice talk with the author. And I said, would you sign the book? And he said, yeah, what's your name? And I said, well, it's Jack Prince. And he said, well, listen, get out of here. I'm not going to, I know who you are. And I said, well, no, hey, hold on. I know it's a bad name in this town, but I'm not related. Honest to God, I'm not related. And it took a few minutes to convince him. And I got the signature. But the book just curled my hair. I mean, it's just incredible. And I think it's much more sophisticated what he's doing even now.
And we're 2 years behind now, I think, on knowing what he's doing, at least. Because as it's coming out, it's always, it just came out now that he did this in 2019, and it's happening so fast and has so much power. That's why I talk about the things and say the things I do about the things I'm seeing happening around us. If you're on my Facebook, you probably noticed I posted a public video of a couple of guys doing about 70 on some ATVs.
You were giving chase?
Right past the city of GR this week. Yeah, I did. I followed them.
Yeah, that was you driving?
Yeah.
Katy?
Yep.
Wow.
It was industrial, and I think I got up to like 50 or something. I'm like a 40, maybe a 40.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't too crazy, but they were at 70 because I couldn't keep up with them.
Yeah.
And they were on ATVs, off-road vehicles. So that's why I was like, what is going on here? What are these guys doing? And they were not scared at all of being pulled over, having their ATVs taken away. And at the end, I instantly knew that these guys were protected, either knew the police or were private security, because as soon as they got to their residence, one of them pulled in, the other one he stopped and waved me by. He was so annoyed that I followed him that he insisted on seeing my plate and getting behind me. And that was how I knew it was them. But I'm like, this is what Erik Prince is doing now.
Yeah.
The same guys that are working to secure our infrastructure are the same guys that are going to be out against leftists, arresting people at protests.
Yeah, by securing, we
Right.
might as well call it theft.
Yeah, they're stealing it from us. And I that's what I should clarify more often when I talk about it, because people don't understand. They think that they're just helping us by securing it. No, they're stealing it. Mm-hmm. We won't be able to have water or gas or electricity.
And I'm just going to stop there because talking about Erik Prince just gets me angry. This will get everybody angry here, Jack. You sent this story to me. So Mitch McConnell, after verbally eviscerating Trump, after voting no on the impeachment, now has said that he would absolutely support Trump if he won the nomination in 2024. Are you kidding me?
I mean, we can't be
shocking.
shocked.
But you got to understand what the Super Bowl of conservative bombastic speech is going to be, starting actually today with CPAC. And I think McConnell knows the wave is coming. You listen to the lineup today. This is just... well, they may be speaking right now. DeSantis, Lee, Cruz, Getz, Scott, as in Rick Scott, Josh Hawley, our recent star, Trump Jr., and his sweetheart Kimberly, and I don't know the last name.
Kimberly Guilfoyle, the former
Tinfoil.
Fox Propaganda's channel talking head.
Yeah, so you can just imagine. I mean, that's the face of the radical Republican Party today. There's not a moderate in sight, probably not even in Washington.
They're discussing forming a Patriot Party.
Oh, it's going to get even better. Guess who's getting inducted into the Conservative Hall of Fame posthumously this weekend? The guy we just talked
Rush
about.
Limbaugh.
The guy we just talked about at the beginning of the show, Rush Limbaugh.
Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned CPAC. I totally forgot about it. I wonder if Sebastian Gorka is going to be there talking about hamburgers. You know?
Yeah, I remember. Going to take your pickup truck away and your hamburger.
Yeah, exactly. God, yeah.
Now what do we do?
Sebastian Gorka, a multi-time winner of Douchebag of the Week on this show. Oh, God. So I have this story. This is Dartanoro Clark writing for NBC News. This is dated February 25th. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, said Thursday he would absolutely support former President Donald Trump if he won the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. In an interview with Fox Propaganda Channel, McConnell said, quote, well, there's a lot to happen between now and 24. I've got at least 4 members that I think are planning to run for president, plus some governors and others. There's no incumbent, a wide open race, and should be fun for you all to cover, end of quote. Oh, God, that's going to make me puke having to cover this. Might as well get the hurl sound effect ready to go, right?
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Asked whether he would support Trump, who has hinted at a second run if he became the nominee, McConnell said, quote, absolutely, end of quote. Republican Senators Josh Hawley of Missouri and Tom Cotton of Arkansas, as well as Nikki Haley, the former U.S. ambassador to the UN, have also been mentioned as potential candidates. That just makes me gag right there.
To personify this, Darren, they just released a picture this morning of a golden statue of Trump. Have you seen that?
Oh, my gosh.
Carrying it into the front door of CPAC, and then all these comparisons with the golden calf. It looks like solid gold. He's got his hat on. It's about 6 feet high, going into the front of the auditorium.
I swear I just read an Onion piece, and it was from the Onion book. That the headline was Donald Trump gold plates Atlantic City.
God. By the way, speaking of Atlantic City, did you see that the Trump Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City got imploded within the last couple of weeks?
Oh, no.
Yeah, that was nice.
That was beautiful. The Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino, the former home of WrestleMania 4 and 5. Oh, God.
What are they doing there?
They imploded it.
I know, but I'm saying, are they rebuilding something, or what's their...
I think the property's up for sale.
I bet they're going to steal the resources out from under it.
Oh, God.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, I think they've got plans maybe for a convention center or something like that.
Or there's probably so much gold in there, whoever got the demo project gets to keep it all. So
I think they tore all the gold out before they imploded it. Yeah. Anything that was of any value, they made sure to snap that up while they had the opportunity.
Like when Trump was leaving the White House.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. No, I've got to stop on McConnell because I'll hurl if I have to keep reading any more about that. Oh. But this is something that we've always talked about for decades. Republicans always stick together no matter what.
It's easy to do when you've got, absolutely no empathy and no concern for anybody in humanity.
Democrats
except for yourselves.
Democrats can't do that. Democrats is like herding cats, trying to get them to go in one direction as a group.
But that's because Democrats, as a whole, our party does not actually stand for what they say they do.
Bingo.
It's a real hard, it's a hard thing to do. The Republicans not only stand for what they say they do, they're unabashed about it. Yeah. They're like racism, hell yeah. White supremacy, let's do this. A little bit of sexism and misogyny, heck yeah.
Well, I think the Democrats right now shoot themselves in the foot even worse than normally because they are ridiculously pushing this Tandem, is that her name?
Neera Tanden. Another former douchebag of the week winner on this show.
It was Hillary's assistant or whatever, basically her campaign manager, I think she was, during her horrible, horrible campaign of 2016. Like the worst person you could have propped up. She's vindictive. She's childish. She can't keep her mouth shut.
She has said really negative things about Bernie Sanders in the past, which is why she has won douchebag of the week on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but the thing is, wouldn't you think that she'd be a lightning rod? Here, Biden's playing the unity card and trying to get some coalition to pass the stimulus bill, right? And he refuses to abandon this tandem. I don't get it.
And here's the thing about it. You know who's opposing her? Is Joe Manchin. I'm like, what? When did Joe Manchin ever get on the right side of history as a Democrat? Come on.
Yeah, real progressive Manchin. Yeah.
He's like, I'm the Democratic Republican. I'm the Republican Democrat.
It's not Bernie Sanders saying, no, don't put her in, which he rightfully should over the things that she said about him over the last decade.
But he knows you give this woman enough rope, she's going to hang herself. No. And she already is. Everything she does, she's not doing a great job.
So it looks like Neera Tanden's nomination's gonna go down in flames. Speaking of nominations, I know we didn't talk about this before we started recording. Jennifer Granholm is Education Secretary. She got confirmed yesterday.
I didn't even see it.
Yep, 64-35.
That's much better than Betsy.
So now my question is, what's she gonna do to reverse some of this damage? What are we going to do? The privatization, and let's talk about the kids, because so much of what Betsy did was about funneling those immigrant kids and giving money to places like Pine Rest and places like Bethany Christian.
You're thinking she's Education Secretary. No, Energy Secretary.
She's Energy Secretary.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. The reason that she got nominated was because of her.
I'm like, I didn't see a place for her as Education Secretary, but I don't get energy either.
Apparently, when she was governor of Michigan, she made some strides to invest in renewables when she was governor of Michigan.
Oh my!
There's a credential.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen how the renewables work in Michigan, and it's
they work better up here than they do in Texas because we actually winterize things up here.
No, they're not working. A lot of it isn't working at all. That's the crazy part. I'm still waiting to see how that geothermal project went at the Capitol building that we invested $80 million in that I have yet to see actually works.
But Darren, your point about the Secretary of Ed, whoever it is, and I think they do have a guy.
I'm not sure who they've got.
But to answer your question, they're not going to do anything really that drastically different. Particularly with privatization. I have not seen a Democrat in my short political awareness life that ever really opposed privatization of schools at all, anywhere.
Or even called it out, any of the privatization.
Even called it out, yeah, right.
Yeah, we can't even get gubernatorial candidates that claim to be progressive to say no more charter schools.
No, I can't do it.
Well, look at
Abdul, the great progressive savior.
Yeah.
I talked with him when he was in Grand Rapids, and I said, wait a second, you primarily are only against privatization for for-profit schools, which, Michigan is the leading state in the union for that problem. But any privatization,
the problem's so much bigger.
Yeah, I guess I never looked at it like that. So I don't know. I guess I was just too busy to look at things.
Oh, that hurts.
Like political.
But I mean, he also, as soon as he got done running, went and started a nonprofit or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, the nominee for Education Secretary is Miguel Cardona.
Oh, they did go with somebody who was Hispanic, didn't they?
Yeah, he's the Education Commissioner for the state of Connecticut.
Well, I really hope that he does something to address the fact that, I'm really worried about how much money she was diverting to places like Pine Rest and Bethany Christian Services for re-education.
Mm-hmm.
And where are those kids? Where are those kids?
I'm just waiting on the Postal Board of Governors to get rid of DeJoy. But right now, this is why DeJoy's still in office. Right here it is. Because right now there's 3 vacancies on the United States Postal Service Board of Governors. 2 Democrats, 4 Republicans, 3 vacancies. Biden needs to get 3 commissioners and get DeJoy out now.
Exactly.
If he's against privatization.
Mm-hmm.
If he's not working with the same agenda, which I question all the time. Look at Rosalind Bliss. She's supposedly a Democrat.
I'd rather not.
Right? Shoot. A lot of people would say that's the only thing she's good for. But maybe
I think she's cute.
Exactly. Looking at her is probably the only thing I can use her for. So, but here's the thing. She just approved a $9.4 million package to replace our streetlights with LED. Mm-hmm. Everybody is so proud of how cute that is and how clean energy that is. They're not paying attention to the fact that we don't own those streetlights. And why didn't somebody, whoever made that contract with the utility companies, make sure they had to pay for those? Make sure that we were contracting them to give us LED streetlights. Instead, we have to pay for this equipment, and now we have to pay to use it.
Yep.
No oversight. Yep.
Right. $10 million is a lot of money. That is not chump change. But privatization, we're just going to hand that money to the utility companies, and nobody's going to ask questions.
Yeah.
And speaking of money as a barometer of corruption, you see where they just admitted that the money spent on the F-35 fighter, which
Trillions.
I'm not a math guy, but isn't it like $1.7 trillion?
It was, yes, and that was years ago when I heard that figure. And they were still working on it.
For a plane that cannot fly.
Yes.
But I think they said it's done. The gig's up. They're not even going to try. What do you mean you're not going to try? What are you going to put the plane in a museum someplace for $1 trillion? Are you kidding me?
Well, apparently they got more than one. They've built several models.
Yeah.
Because the Navy has their own, the Air Force has their own. So, what are they going to do with these?
Well, teachers are leaving the profession in the public schools because they can't raise a family. The hell, they can't get an apartment.
No.
They're on food stamps. And we can spend $1 trillion on a venture that went nowhere.
Oh, absolutely. No, this is just good money after bad. And we allow it to happen. And it's getting ridiculous. Something else, and we were talking about commissions. We had talked about the USPS Board of Governors. I want to also talk about one other place where we need a commission. There's a vacancy on the Federal Communications Commission. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and shill for myself. Joe Biden, President Biden, please, for the love of God, put me on the FCC Commission.
Darren, did you apply?
No.
Apply.
You can't apply?
Half the time there's an opening, it's because nobody has applied. That's how I got on the Housing Commission.
That's true.
It took me 10 seconds. I sent in an application that asked 4 questions, and they appointed me. And I think they might have had to. I think it might be a rule.
Yeah,
you should apply.
FCC, I think commissioners, you have to go in front of Congress and get
maybe,
approved.
but you still got to apply to get it there.
I'll have to look at the way that they do it here, but I want to get to this story. This is from the New York Times. This is Rachel Abrams writing on February 22nd. This just happened earlier in the week. 3 months ago, federal lawmakers grilled Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook's chief executive, and Jack Dorsey, Twitter's chief, about the misinformation that had appeared on their platforms. Now a congressional committee has scheduled a hearing to focus on the role of companies that provide cable television service in the spread of falsehoods concerning the 2020 election. And by the way, that happened on Wednesday. The hearing, called Fanning the Flames, Disinformation and Extremism in the Media. In advance of this hearing, members of the House Energy and Commerce Committee sent a letter Monday to Comcast, AT&T, Spectrum, Dish Network, Verizon, Cox, and Altus, asking about their role in, quote, the spread of dangerous misinformation, end of quote. The committee members also sent the letter to Roku, Amazon, Apple, Google, and Hulu, digital companies that distribute cable programming. The scrutiny of cable providers took on new urgency after supporters of Donald Trump repeatedly promoted the debunked claim that the election was rigged, and then they stormed the Capitol on January 6th. 2 Democratic representatives from California, Anna G. Eshoo and Jerry McNerney, wrote the letter, which was reviewed by the New York Times. They wrote this in part, quote, to our knowledge, the cable, satellite, and over-the-top companies that disseminate these media outlets to American viewers have done nothing in response to the misinformation aired by these outlets, end of quote. Newsmax, a right-wing cable channel carried by AT&T, CenturyLink, Charter, Comcast, Dish, and Verizon, had a surge in ratings in November because of programs that embraced Trump's claims of voter fraud. One America News Network, a right-wing outlet carried by AT&T, CenturyLink, and Verizon, also promoted the false theory. Fox Propaganda Channel, the most watched cable network, which is available from all major carriers, was one of 5 defendants in a $2.7 billion defamation lawsuit filed this month by the election technology company Smartmatic. In the suit, the company accused Fox, its parent company Fox Corporation, 3 anchors, and 2 frequent guests of promoting false claims about the election and Smartmatic's role in it. By the way, Fox has denied the claims. They have filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. Congress can raise the issue of whether cable providers bear responsibility for the programs they deliver to millions of Americans, but it may have no way to force them to drop networks that have spread misinformation. And unlike broadcast stations, cable channels do not have licenses that are regulated by the Federal Communications Commission. The lawmakers' letter asked the companies, quote, what steps did you take prior to, on, and following the November 3rd, 2020 elections and the January 6, 2021 attacks to monitor, respond to, and reduce the spread of disinformation, including encouragement or incitement of violence by channels your company disseminates to millions of Americans, end of quote. The letter continues, quote, are you planning to continue carrying Fox Propaganda, OANN, and Newsmax on your platform both now and beyond the renewal date? If so, why? End of quote. The actual says Fox News, but we do not use on this show the word news after the word Fox because they're not news. They were never meant to be news. They were meant to be GOP TV, which Roger Ailes pitched to Richard Nixon in 1970, and Nixon said it would never work. So there's your history lesson. Fox denounced the congressional effort. In a statement, they said, quote, for individual members of Congress to highlight political speech they do not like and demand cable distributors engaged in viewpoint discrimination sets a terrible precedent, end of quote. Let me stop there. It's not political speech they don't like. It's outright lies that you are disseminating.
That's right.
Period. Which I'm going to skip this and I'm going to go to the next story here. Rudy Takala for Mediaite wrote this column. Federal Communications Commissioner Brendan Carr called an effort by House Democrats to pressure cable providers into removing Fox and other conservative networks a, quote, chilling transgression, end of quote, of free speech, and asked his colleagues on the commission to denounce the lawmakers. In a Monday statement, Carr said, quote, by writing letters to the cable providers and other regulated entities that carry these news media outlets, the Democrats are sending a message that is as clear as is troubling. These regulated entities will pay a price if the targeted newsrooms do not conform to Democrats' preferred political narratives. This is a chilling transgression of the free speech rights that every media outlet in this country enjoys. End of quote.
No, it's not. It's actually just supporting the principle of journalistic integrity. I mean,
exactly. This is a chilling transgression of free speech rights.
You need free speech and you need integrity in journalism. You can't have one.
This is a chilling transgression. Bullshit. As somebody who has been in this business for 30 plus years, bullshit. Carr continued, quote, debate on matters of public interest should be robust, uninhibited, and wide open. More speech is better than less. I'm going to stop, end of quote, stop there. No, more speech is not better than less. More truth is better than less. There you go. Right there's the issue I have with the statement. It's not more speech, you need more truth. Unbelievable.
A rare commodity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What was my slogan all of last year, Jack? More truth in 2020. Didn't I use that hashtag an awful lot on my personal Facebook?
Yeah. And what happens is when truth is not of value, you get my adage, which is there's nothing more foolish than the obvious to those who are unwilling to admit the truth. There is no more obvious. There is no more absolutism either once truth has been crucified, which is what's happened.
Yeah.
Truth is not something that has any value. Doesn't mean anything to people.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Including the guy out in South Dakota. I don't know if you're ahead of that story, but that's fraught with deceit. The guy that killed somebody.
They value nice over truth.
Yeah.
Nice is better because that's professional.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Professional.
I've decided that I'm going to redefine this because you could basically take the word professional and just replace it with the phrase makes a lot of money for somebody else. Every time across the board, the word professional really just means makes a lot of money for somebody else. Mm-hmm. That's it. Mm-hmm. And we use it like it's something to be proud of. No, I don't want to be a professional ever.
Yeah, but we worship money in this country. Yeah. We worship power.
Yeah.
It's sickening. It's not even ridiculous. It's gotten to the point of it's sickening.
It very much is.
And we worship celebrities too.
Oh yeah, because of their power.
See one more story on Tiger Woods, I'm going to puke.
If I see one more story about Lady Gaga's kidnapped French bulldogs, I'm going to really get sick.
I feel like there's more sympathy for the dogs than the dog walker who got shot.
There's no reward for him. They don't care about that.
No, they were about the dogs.
Yeah.
Yep.
God, you got to be that desperate to go up to a dog walker, shoot the guy 4 times in the chest.
For some French Sharpies?
For French bulldogs. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. To quote the late, great Rick Beckett, the world has gone crazy.
Well, our priorities have gone from taking care of each other to taking care of ourselves. That's it.
And it's very appropriate for me to bring that up as we are recording today, Friday, February 26, 2021. Today is the 12th anniversary of Rick Beckett's passing. So the late, great King RB, the king of Grand Rapids radio for our local listeners here. Jack, you had mentioned what's happening in South Dakota. I want to cover that for a little bit. This is Rachel Treisman writing for National Public Radio on February 24th. I had no idea that this had even happened up until I saw this story.
Yeah.
South Dakota Attorney General Jason Ravnsborg is facing calls to leave office after newly released video evidence has raised questions about his conduct in the car crash that killed a pedestrian last year. It's the latest fallout from the September 12th incident in which Ravnsborg, while driving home from an evening Republican fundraiser, fatally struck 55-year-old Joe Bover along the side of U.S. Highway 14 near Highmore, South Dakota. In his initial 911 call, as well as in a subsequent 2-page public statement, Ravnsborg said he believed his car had hit a deer or some other large animal and did not know that he had killed a man until he returned to the accident scene the following day and discovered Bover's body. Now, I'm just going to stop right here. I don't believe his story for a bit.
No.
Here's my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion. I think he knew that he hit somebody. He was probably over the limit, possibly, allegedly. I would imagine he probably had a few drinks at this fundraiser, hit somebody on the way home, and decided, I don't want to get nabbed for drunk driving causing a fatality. I'm just going to go home and sleep it off. This is my opinion that this is what happened. There's no proof of this. This is my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's obvious what you're saying.
Yeah.
He hit a guy who had an accident because a straw bale had hit his pickup and was walking along the side of the road carrying a flashlight that was lit. Mm-hmm. That was, obviously, if you're carrying a flashlight by the side of the road, you're using it to wave off or to show people who are headed at you. Yeah. You're not showing the woods out looking for squirrels. You're using the light to put people in attention of your presence. Mm-hmm. And he was hit.
Yes. Let me continue here. Governor Kristi Noem Tuesday called for Ravnsborg, who faces 3 misdemeanor charges, to resign. Later that day, a bipartisan group of South Dakota House lawmakers filed a resolution to impeach him over acts causing and following Bever's death, writing that, quote, during his reporting of the collision and the resulting investigation, he undertook actions unbecoming the Attorney General, end of quote. Noem tweeted, quote, now that the investigation is closed and charges have been filed, I believe the Attorney General should resign. I have reviewed the material we are releasing starting today, and I encourage others to review it as well. End of quote. The Attorney General's office told National Public Radio by email that it does not comment on any ongoing investigation or litigation. According to the Argus Leader, a private spokesman for Ravnsborg issued a statement Tuesday saying that the Attorney General has no intention of resigning and that, quote, at no time has this issue impeded his ability to do the work of the office, end of quote. Videos of 2 police interrogations totaling about 3 hours, released by the state's Department of Public Safety on Tuesday, show investigators from the North Dakota Bureau of Criminal Investigation raising questions about Ravnsborg's account and pushing back on his assertions that he did not know what he had struck until the next day. For instance, they noted he said he had been driving in the middle of the road but was really on the shoulder. An investigator says in one of the videos, quote, I know you understand the process. I'm not second-guessing that at all. What I'm saying is, if you look at it from our perspective, things haven't been straightforward by any means. In fact, some people would call you a liar. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm saying there's some mistakes made here, though. You would have to agree to that. End of quote. Ravnsborg responded that he was not a liar and did not know what he would have done differently. Quote, I believe that I was in the road. I believe I set my phone down, shut the radio off, and was looking to put the cruise control on. And I didn't find him. I did not find him until the next day. End of quote. At one point...
First of all, they've checked records, and his phone was in use right at the time that he was struck.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is what he was charged with, Darren. Illegal lane usage, careless driving, and using a phone. I had 2 of those charges driving down the turnpike to O'Hare Field to fly out in a plane. I'm just using a phone, and the police pulled me over and said, we could charge you with careless driving and using a phone. And my flight was delayed. So 2 of those, just about anybody could be charged with, right?
Yeah.
And lane usage is ridiculous. Anybody else, this would be hit and run, which is not a misdemeanor. It's a felony. This stinks from top to bottom.
At one point, investigators said that a pair of broken glasses was found inside the Attorney General's car and that the glasses could have gotten there only by Bever's face entering through the windshield. Oh. One of the investigators, in an exchange reported by South Dakota Public Radio, said, quote, we know that his face came through your windshield. That's, I would think, substantially clear that that's what happened. We also have the imprint on the hood where part of his body likely was riding. At some point in time, he rolls off, takes out the mirror, and slides into the ditch. End of quote. Wow. A visibly shaken Ravnsborg maintained that he did not see the glasses and did not know that he had hit a human until the next day.
You saw that, man. You probably pulled him off your car yourself. Yeah. And that's my question here is, was he still alive?
Yeah.
Did you pull him off alive? Did you leave him there alive? and then go home and come back later. Because that, to me, is what it comes down to. That and the fact that there's two justice systems, which we always discuss. You know, he's clearly not being held accountable like everybody else would. But that brings me to the point where what is the right answer for somebody who accidentally hits and kills somebody, right? Because normally we'd throw them in jail for life or whatever, and that's we feel it's justified because they took somebody's life or for at least several years, you know.
Well, we can tell by looking at the autopsy whether he was dead on impact or languished.
They say that a lot. I don't know that it's 100% sure, but if that's what I would be concerned about, I guess, is that, and then I'd be concerned with everybody else who's not charging him. That to me is sick, and he should definitely be removed. He clearly has no integrity. But if he left that man alive, I mean, it should be like so much worse. That should just be a whole different level of sentencing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
The Republicans really are poor liars. I mean,
so bad.
And on the spectrum of lying ability, they're way low.
They really are.
That's the truth, though.
But they don't have to lie to each other. Like, they're also open in most of their bad,
it's true.
qualities.
Yeah.
Those that don't have a lot of practice, I guess. That's it.
Exactly. Well, we should probably bring some levity to the moment, but in order to do that, we really do need to play the appropriate music.
Stop! Hammer time!
Yeah, it's hammer time. It's time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. Once again, we have another multi-time winner this year already. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia. I have this story. This is Janine Santucci writing for USA Today. This was dated February 25th out of Washington. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the freshman congresswoman whose support for QAnon and other extremist conspiracy theories has made her a flashpoint in the House, is facing condemnation again for putting up a sign denying the existence of transgender identities across the hall from another congresswoman who has a transgender child. The Republican from Georgia's, no, I'm just going to stop there. The QAnon from Georgia's back and forth with Representative Marie Newman, Democrat, Illinois, started with Newman's remarks on the House floor about the Equality Act. The legislation protecting the civil rights of LGBTQ Americans passed the House Thursday. Newman talked about the importance of the Equality Act for transgender individuals, including her daughter. Greene then posted a tweet denying her daughter's gender identity. Greene said, quote, "Your biological son does not belong in my daughter's bathrooms, locker rooms, and sports teams," end of quote. And by the way, she wrote "not" in all capital letters in the tweet, so you know she was serious there.
Jackass.
In response, Newman displayed a transgender pride flag outside her office and posted a video of her putting it up, saying she wanted Greene to see it. Newman later told New York Magazine that she put up the flag to send a message to a bully. She told them, quote, "I'm going to put this flag here so you can see it every day and see about your actions and your hate and your disrespect. So that's all that was meant to do. It was just making a statement," end of quote. Greene, who was removed from her committee assignments in the House over her statements and social media posts supporting false conspiracies, then put up her own sign, which reads, quote, "There are two genders, male and female, trust the science," end of quote. By the way, two, male and female, all in capital letters. So
Are you
again,
sure
she's
that's the right
serious about
sign?
that. Yep, that's
The
what
sign
she
I
said.
saw was "I sleep with random men at my health club." Is that a different sign?
Allegedly.
I think her husband confirmed.
Allegedly. If you
I
didn't,
thought her husband confirmed.
well, if you didn't see it or you didn't see video of it happening, it's allegedly.
Oh, okay.
Covering
Yeah,
our asses here.
Gotcha.
Greene tweeted, quote, "Our neighbor, Representative Marie Newman, wants to pass the so-called Equality Act to destroy women's rights and religious freedoms. Thought we'd put up ours so she can look at it every time she opens her door," end of quote.
I'm just going to say it. If that woman ever bullied my kids like that, she's going to need at least 3 or 4 Secret Service details.
Yeah,
I promise, because I am coming for her. I do not come at my kids. Do not.
Exactly. Nope. I got a feeling that the day is going to come that somebody is going to slap her right across the face for her running her yap.
The first thing you do is come at a mom's babies. her days are numbered.
Yep. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, the QAnon rep from Georgia, we have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
That's right. Hey, Marjorie, go back to your QAnon conspiracies. Go back to your private life and stop being a douchebag in public, please.
Yeah, they got a big week coming up here. March 4th isn't that far away. She should be tied up with that, planning, a guest list.
Yeah, supposedly that's when Trump is going to take back over as president. Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. We've only got a couple of minutes left. I want to mention this story here. There was a letter that was sent to Malcolm X's daughter from a New York City cop on his deathbed. It's basically a deathbed confession saying that he was involved in Malcolm X's assassination.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you guys seen this story?
No.
It has not made the news like it should. It has not made the rounds. But he wrote this letter 10 years ago, and he specifically gave his whole testimony to his cousin, and he requested that they release it upon his death.
Yep. The officer is Raymond Wood. He is a former New York Police Department officer. Left a letter to his cousin, Reginald Wood Jr. in 2011. By the way, I'm reading this from CBS News. This is Annalisa Novak writing on February 25th.
Can I read his letter, or do you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it says January 25th, 2011, to whom it may concern. I, Raymond A. Wood, being of sound mind and body, wish to confess the following. I was a black New York City undercover police officer from April 1964 through May of 1971. I participated in actions that in hindsight were deplorable and detrimental to the advancement of my own black people. My actions on behalf of the New York City Police Department were done under duress and fear that I did not follow the orders of my handlers, I could face detrimental consequences. Presently, I am aging with failing health. Recently, I have learned of the death of Mr. Thomas Johnson and are deeply concerned that with my death, his family will not be able to exonerate him after being wrongly convicted in the killing of Malcolm X. The facts are as follows. April 17th, 1964, I was hired by the New York City Police Department. Without training, I was immediately assigned to the Bossy Investigation Unit. My job was to infiltrate civil rights organizations throughout New York City to find evidence of criminal activities so the FBI could discredit and arrest its leaders. After witnessing repeated brutality at the hands of my own co-workers, police, I tried to resign. Instead, I was threatened with arrest by pinning marijuana and alcohol trafficking charges on me if I did not follow through with the assignments. Under the direction of my handlers, I was told to encourage leaders and members of civil rights groups to commit felonious acts. The Statue of Liberty bombing idea was created by my supervisor handler. Using surveillance, the agency learned that Bao and Syed were key players in Malcolm X's crowd control security detail. It was my assignment to draw the two men into a felonious federal crime so that they could be arrested by the FBI and kept away from managing Malcolm X's Audubon ballroom door security on February 21, 1965. On February 16, 1965, the Statue of Liberty plot was carried out and the men were arrested just days before the assassination of Malcolm. At that time, I was not aware that Malcolm X was the target. On February 21, 1965, I was ordered to be at the Audubon Ballroom, where I was identified by witnesses while leaving the scene. Thomas Johnson was later arrested and wrongfully convicted to protect my cover and the secrets of the FBI and NYPD. I have placed my full confession in the care of my cousin, Reginald Wood Jr. I have requested that this information be held until after I have passed away. It is my hope that this information is received with the understanding that I have carried these secrets with a heavy heart and remorsefully regret my participation in this matter. Raymond A. Wood.
Wow.
Pretty clear.
Yeah.
Very clear. So.
And what a burden for him to have carried his whole life to, be put in a position like that where you're cornered.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch the Black Messiah, the assassination of. It's stunning. Since we're talking about police interfering and killing black activists, I recommend it.
I'm definitely going to check it out.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out when I've got time. And speaking of time, we are out of time for this week. We'll be back next week, folks. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katy Steele.
I'm Jack Prince.
For Kristen Cook, please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.